Mhm. And salutations, my divine and sacred friends, the weird ones. Of course, that's the theme of today's talk. Weird is the way. So we will edify what weird is the way means. But we know that's us. The star tetrahedron, the mystical marriage of power and love. Power is the focusing of attention, light, focusing of light. That's what the mind gives. It gives light. If the light is focused upon flowers, it then creates flowers of creative joy. If the mind is focused upon weeds, then the weeds flourish. And so we are learning to train the mind to be focused upon the divine feminine. And of course, the divine feminine then is love and imagination. It's the film. And so when the divine light of mind shines upon the flowers of feminine imagination and love, it literally sends light rippling through imagination, love, and then holographically creates that within this dimensional reality. We call that the manifestation of the Christ energy. The Christ field being the star tetrahedron, from out of which the universe was originally created. It was the very first manifestation from out of the beginning, the Big Bang, which was the Om. And as we hone and refine our awareness and are able to focus ever more with the mind upon the feelings of love and joy and peace, because we love ourselves by finding all of the old emotion that's within. Emotion is the subtleties of darkness, and so it's looking through a dark glass. And because we are emanating energy through that dark glass, so to speak, it then creates, we might say, dark and unwholesome things in our reality that we meet. And then we judge it or criticize or dislike it. It creates pain and suffering, but it is an emanation of the light that we already are in its perfection that is unconsciously shining through the darkness, which is ignorance. There's nothing wrong with emotion, the ignorance. It's simply aspects of self that we have not yet learned to love and bring back into light. The light of the divine self, going through the emotion, the darkness, finds parts of ourself that weren't loved. We then so powerfully love ourselves that we then are the embodiment of love and imagination, the divine feminine. We have honed and refined the mind to be the perfect instrument of focus and attention. And we then, from the void inside out, summon spirit and all the potentiality within spirit to then be the creative aspects of the increase and the ever expanding universe of love, light, peace, and joy. So that is the beauty of the star tetrahedron. So I see on our live stream tonight that our dear friend Charles is back from down under. He was in Australia. And so the whole time he was there, he said he was upside down. No, he didn't say that. I was kidding. But welcome home, Charles, to lovely Chicago. Nice to have you back. The theme tonight of the meditation is weird is the way. Well, what does that mean? I was working with a couple of clients in session this last week, and they were pretty much trapped within the world. And so they believed that from parental programming and from the information from society and the world around them, that there were ways they should behave, things they should be doing, ways they should function, and they were then into doing within the world to find happiness and peace within. But in the session, I was able, of course, to see and feel what is their true essence. And the true essence was this bright light of robin eggs blue, a little bit of amethyst, which is spirituality, and a touch of light apple green, which is high intuition. And so both of these beings had been within the temples within Greece during the time of Athena. And within the temples, they had honed and refined that which is the divine feminine, imagination, creativity, the arts, all of those kind of more beautiful feeling qualities of life. But they still wanted to be within the temple. And their soul says, no, you must now go into the outer world and you must now claim power. And power is the ability to stand strong and hold focus upon the divine feminine. This beautiful robin eggs of color of creative imagination and feeling, the amethyst of high spirituality, and the light apple green of intuition. But because they were so busy with their masculine in the world, doing and creating what they thought they should be doing, what was expected of them, they were now creating more than a little bit of pain and suffering in their lives. Both of them feeling that they were at the doorway of something profound and new, which is why they called me. Their soul simply brought them to the understanding that there was information out there that would help them on their pathway. And so we then began to sit down and talk about that from their childhood, they were born with these divine feminine qualities, but because their soul wanted them to learn about the aspects of power, the feminine was denied. It was overshadowed with, you're not good enough. There's something unwholesome about you, which creates guilt and fear and worry within them. And so that's why they then went into the world and trying to prove worth by making and doing and having and being outwardly, if you will, validated. And both of them were able to somewhat achieve that, but now there was a sense of pain and suffering and something's not right. And so that's why you and I are so fortunate, because we know that we are weird. We don't belong in the world of what's expected of us, of what we should be doing, of what the world wants from us. We have been beautifully blessed with the grace of knowing that it's really about the feeling of the divine feminine, of love and joy and finding the emotion within and going through it, and so loving ourselves that by feeling prosperity within, loving relationship within, happiness and joy within, it simply vibrates out and attracts those things back to us. And so for most of us, pain and suffering is not our teacher. In the earlier years of my awakening, there was definitely pain and suffering that was my teacher. As most of you well know, I was in real estate and construction development, and by the age of 29, I was very, very ill. In fact, even in the hospital. And that's when the doctor, after lots of tests and all kinds of poking and prodding, came to me and said, well, it's your mind. You're so filled with stress that the mind cannot compute everything you're trying to jam into it. You need to do either hypnosis or meditation. And I bought a book on meditation and read it and found someone who taught me. And within 3 weeks of twice a day meditation, the symptoms were gone. And so I'm so thankful that pain and suffering brought me to the feeling that by meditation, I could simply begin to really hone and refine another level of my self becoming. And so that's the path that I then launched myself out upon. And as I did that, um, the people I was working with, it was my business. They were shocked. They said, "Gary, you're weird now. You're one of the weirdest things that's going on. You could be super wealthy. You could be, filled with all kinds of, manifestations of houses and things and cars. And here you're going to think about giving it up for spirituality. Something's very wrong with you." And in that moment, I knew I was weird, definitely weird, which, as I put in the email, weird is outlandish, weird is magic, weird is interesting. Those are all synonyms for weird. And so I was literally beginning to feel and really embody those qualities as I moved away from what was expected of me and what the world wanted and what I should be doing to find self-worth, because I didn't find it. And so for probably 90% of the people on the planet still, pain and suffering is their mode of learning. It's the dominant theme of information upon the planet. When you keep hitting a brick wall, you ask, well, where's the way to go around the brick wall? And a lot of people, they simply go around the brick wall, and because they haven't changed from within, they simply hit another brick wall that looks a little different. Rather than hitting maybe the red brick wall, they might hit the striped brick wall, or they might hit the yellow brick wall. It's not the yellow brick road, mind you, that's meditation. And so every time they hit the brick wall, they think, well, something's wrong in the world. And so they try and make something different out there. And so that's why I was informing these two individuals that to be able to find and feel the emotion within, which is what keeps driving you to believe you have to perform in the world according to what people think you should be doing. I informed them that they're weird. They're not normal. They're abnormal. Their auras were absolutely filled with light and magic and possibilities. It was the divine feminine that was simply waiting for light to come, which is power, which is the ability to begin to meditate and train the mind to become more of a silent instrument so they could begin to really feel and focus upon what they are feeling within their heart. At the same time, I was encouraging them to be able to use the mind and the feminine feeling nature to feel into the emotion that was still trapped below the diaphragm in the lower area, and that childlike part feeling unloved and unaccepted. That's a lie that they were told, but the only way that the lie can be released, the spell broken, is to bring light to the spell. And what is the light? It's the golden light of the divine being you are that created the child. It also then, through agreements, the mother, the father, the culture, the society that each one of us was dropped down into, because that's our lesson. It's what drives us every day more and more by kind of asking, well, why do I not feel whole? What feels lonely or sad or fearful or maybe frustrated or even angry? Well, that's always from 0 to 7 childhood. It's the gift we were given by our parents and by our society. There's something wrong with you, which does create pain and suffering as we grow up. But then that finally leads us to ask why. And we realize, oh, there's something within me that really wants to wake up. And it's a feeling. All through college, for me, it was reading. I read voraciously, everything I get my hands on about spirituality, the occult, religion. I read it, but I didn't really embody it or live it. And so when I finally had enough pain and suffering to put me in the hospital and started meditating, I realized it wasn't about knowing. Knowing is part of it, it's the beginning. But then I had to learn how to bring the light within, which is what meditation does. And as I began to focus attention and light within, that's when I found the darkness within me, the feelings of loneliness and worthlessness and frustration and a little bit of hatred and some anger. But as I brought the light to those emotions, the darkness, I learned that I could slip through them and no longer create pain and suffering in the world by mirroring my worthlessness out and creating something that was in my face in the world, or pushing my buttons, or feeling lack of prosperity, and then money was difficult to hold on to and slipping through my fingers. I learned to bring the light back in and simply settle through those emotions, the darkness, without judgment or criticism or dislike. And as I settled in and through, I always found myself as a child, feeling in a room where there was this magical little guy, but there was all this ignorance coming into his room, anger and frustration and fighting over money and relationship issues and just, people's stuff all filtering into his room. And he simply put it all around him like a veil and said, "Must be me." And that's the lie that each and every one of us is told. But then we begin to feel something moving within. We've had enough pain or suffering, or someone comes along and gives us a book or talks to us about something, or we feel something stirring within the world, which is really happening right now. So much light and spirituality moving, that we then ask ourselves, why? Why do I feel this way? Why do I feel so weird? Well, it's because you are weird. You're filled with magic. You're outlandish. And then we begin to find ways by turning to spirituality. Now, spirituality is the feeling that spirit lives within all creation. It breathes within people, within trees, within stones, within the air. That's spirit. Religion is doctrine and creed and limited ideas from some marvelous being who created to be enlightened and knew that spirit was everywhere at one. But then they began to want to follow this individual. So they created doctrine and creed that if you follow this doctrine, you can be like this person. But because they hadn't achieved it, what they were writing became more and more limited. And so that began to be religion. Doctrine, ideas, and creeds that lead you back to spirit. And once again, there's nothing wrong with any of that. By being within those religious traditions, it can create limitation, or it can create a sense of possibilities and hopes. Everything's perfect. It's always driving you by the soul to find more information about who am I. But after a while, we realize that all of that has simply been overshadowing me, and it's been something that was imposed upon me. It's not my true nature. My true nature, just like the true nature within every human being, is a divine and sacred soul, perfect in light and perfect in love, but is trying to find information about how three-dimensional worlds of form work. So that's why the soul keeps dipping down into time and space. It wants to feel loneliness. It wants to feel anger. It wants to feel love. It wants to feel peace. It wants to feel every possibility there is within a dimensional reality. And so it's all just information. But when we learn how to go into the darkness, which is emotion, fear, loneliness, sadness, grief, shame, frustration, anger, and hatred, and simply be the light of love that settles through it, we find something that wasn't loved, which is a part of ourself that was overshadowed in ignorance within our childhood. And because we're now loving that childlike part of us, it literally brings it back into life. The darkness, simply like smoke, disappears. We call it transformation. We're not trying to get rid of the darkness. We don't dislike it. We're transforming it. And the way we transform it is to simply flow through it and find what isn't loved. So all darkness in the world, all pain and suffering, all violence, everything we see out there that's chaos is simply being demonstrated by someone who doesn't feel loved. And when we, as the soul, learn to master love, but then we master darkness, we can stand within the world in equanimity. As Buddha said, we are equal with all things. We are equal with the light, we're equal with the dark, because we know it's just the dance of spirit, seeking to gather more information about how three-dimensional worlds of form work. And so there's no longer judgment or criticism or dislike within us. We're equal, equanimity. And so then the world would see us as super weird. One of the weirdest on the planets was Jesus, and so they crucified him. No, you're way too weird. But he said, fine, give it your best shot. 3 days later, there he was back. It's all just illusion, and that's what the soul is seeking to do, to finally so be informed within three-dimensionality and master it, that you know it's the soul that is holding the three-dimensional body in a molecular construct in order to gather information about this dimension. And when you truly know and feel that, as Jesus did, you're even then the master of the molecular construct. You can simply bring it back into life. You can transform it. There's only one law within the universe, and it's the law of transformation. Nothing dies. It simply is always transformed into something new. When a leaf falls on the ground, it simply is transformed into nutrients for a plant or for the tree. Everything is simply transforming. And so that's what the soul is doing. It's gathering information about this three-dimensional world of form so that it can transform itself into being the light informed, which would then create a human divine being. And a human divine being would be able to, through the mastery of the mind, simply focus light, attention, through imagination, love, the divine feminine. And as the light shined through imagination and love, the loaf and the fish would appear. And everyone will say, that's magic. It's the law. It's the law of creation, the star tetrahedron, the Christ field, not a person, but a field of energy of such powerful clarity and focus upon imagination and love that when the two are united, imagination and light are immediately moving around and through each other, which holographically creates. And of course, that's where we're going within this dimensional world. We're slowly evolving to that place where human divine beings will then create peace on earth. We will have mastered this dimensional world. But only the weirdest and the most outlandish are going there. Because you can't conform to the world. What's expected of me? What do I think I should be doing? And it's not that we're disliking the world or saying it's bad. For those who are still involved within it, it's perfect for them. That's their information. But for you and I, who are now transitioning into a human divine form, it's about being a little bit more weird and outlandish each day. By so loving yourself that this child of magic begins to literally living in and through you. And you're walking around all the time in joy and adventure and in excitement and enthusiasm and love and happiness and peace. And most of the world would say, you're pretty weird. Well, thank you very much. That's the truth. Childlike magic and splendor is that which I am, which is what God is. That's what spirit is. And so we're at the cusp of this great awakening. And so it's important to celebrate your weirdness, your outlandishness, your magic. And we do that by, again, finding that which is not feeling that way, which is this childlike part of each and every human that is covered over with ignorant programs, just programs. And we transform them by simply going through the program without judgment or criticism, finding what lives inside the program, a magical child. And because we that created the magical child, the soul that we are that first created this magical child and dropped it down into time and space, we have returned and brought the child back into life. And now the soul and the personality and the child are united, the three and the one. And now we are a human divine being. And we create peace on earth. That's where we're going. So wonderful to celebrate our weirdness at this beautiful time of Christ Mass. So one of the things that we do that greatly assists us in this transformation is to bring forth spirit from out of the open doorway within the heart, because spirit is always transforming. As we breathe it from out of the open doorway within the heart, we then see and feel it, focusing the mind upon loving and feeling it as golden, sparkling, effervescent light, which then moves through all the cells and tissues of our body, and it vibrates out into the world. And it literally begins to seed everything and everyone around us with sparkling, effervescent light. And so we're not changing the world by wanting to make it different. We're simply shining such brilliant light upon it, it transforms. So let's do about 5 minutes of deep breathing. I'll simply guide you through the process. So let's close the eyes and feel the body relaxing. And bringing our attention to the heart chakra at the sternum, I'm going to sit at the doorway, the jewel in the lotus within my heart. And with in-breath, I'm going to breathe spirit through the doorway I am. And with gentle exhale, I will see and feel it as sparkling, effervescent golden light. I sit at the doorway of the divine I am, breathing source I am, and with consciousness, mind, and heart, I see and feel it as sparkling, effervescent light. Deep belly breathing, summoning from the open doorway. Spirit, I am. With consciousness, it becomes light and life. Summoning from out of the void, Spirit, the breath of life. But it has no life until consciousness sees, imagines, and feels it. And then it becomes sparkling, effervescent, living light. It weaves through every cell and tissue and organ of my body, renewing, transforming. It emanates out into the world like living sunlight. I may truly say, I am the light. It's the breath of life, Spirit. It has dimensional qualities when consciousness, focus, attention, and love and imagination upon it. It becomes manifest. I sit at the doorway, the eternal void behind me. Breathing, Spirit, I am. And with consciousness, allowing it to become living sunlight. Effortlessly, so simply. Breathing, Spirit, I am. With consciousness, it becomes light. And I breathe slowly and deeply from the doorway, the Christ field I am. I can be conscious throughout the day of breathing, Spirit, I am, into this dimension. And with consciousness, creating it to be living sunlight and peace. I bring light to the world. And then very easily now, sitting at the doorway of the I am, knowing I am consciousness, slowly coming back into the now. I am the breath of life. And when it's comfortable, to slowly open the eyes. The star tetrahedron, of course, it's the manifestation of divine power, masculine, divine feminine, love feeling. And it's not something that we are observing. In the beginning of our meditation, we begin to observe and see the star tetrahedron. But as we begin to refine our awareness, we realize that we're sitting in the doorway and all around us is the star tetrahedron. The very center of the doorway where we sit is a dodecahedron. And as spirit arises forth, it's the 12 sounds and the 12 colors and the 12 archangels of creation flowing from us. And it is our consciousness that as we're breathing and bringing spirit into this dimension, it moves through the facets of this amazing Christed field. And thus we create spirit to be informed. So I'll take you through the formulation of the star tetrahedron, and then we will sit at the doorway and observe upper triangulation flowing left to right, lower triangulation right to left. And as we sit at the doorway, we are then giving spirit dimensional life. I am the light. So let's close the eyes and feel the body relaxing. Once again, being aware of the breath. Breath is literally life. Bringing attention between the eyebrows, we gently draw a line straight back. The approximate center point of the head, the seat of the soul, an outpost of the divine I am. And holding attention here, we ignite the light, the brilliant golden light of the soul. We gently focus the light to the heart chakra at the sternum. We image in what already exists, the Christ star, the star tetrahedron. And as we sit at the doorway, the upper triangulation of divine power flowing left to right, and the lower triangulation, divine feminine love, right to left. Creating, of course, the vortex within the very middle, the open doorway, the dodecahedron. And there we sit, consciousness, summoning spirit to touch the facets of the star tetrahedron, to spin out living light. I am the light. I will join with you, and together we will create living light into this dimensional world. And very easily now, you could begin to feel yourself slowly coming back. More and more into the moment of the now. Welcome home, travelers, to the stars. Thank you for joining. We will have our next meditation in January. Of course, have a marvelous Christ Mass time and be the light. So easy. Breathe it in, focus consciousness, and let it be light I am. Blessings, my friend. Thank you so much.